How's it going, everybody? We're here at NAMM 2023. Here at Devon Bass, we have Devon Smullen, right? Devon Smullen is the founder, creator of Devon Bass, based in Texas. Devon, thank you very much for having us here. This is awesome. So before we start talking about the basses, I want to know a little bit about the why. Why did you start Devon Bass?
Wow, it's fascinating. All right, why did I start Devon Bass? So believe it or not, I've been building basses for 30 years. I started in 1993. So it's been a while since I've been making basses. And back then, you know what, I saw in Bass Player magazine, I think it was a Smith design, and then I saw Federa, and then I saw MTD. It was just so inspirational for me to see those basses, how they had really taken bass guitar to a new level. And that really inspired me. With an art background, I really love that. And I also was in design. So we're a place where I could meld these two together, along with my bass playing. As a bass player itself, it brought it all together. It's just super rewarding to be able to build a functional, well-designed instrument that just that could really people interact with, produces great tone, and people can make music with. And just combining all those things together, I think it's just what drew me to the instrument, and make not only just playing bass, but making them and just making them something that kind of my vision of what it could be.
One thing that really caught my eye in your basses is not only how well they play and how well they sound, but also all the little innovations that you create to make the life of a bass player easier. Try out the different preamps, different pickups, different positions and things like that, even the weight and all these things. So how does that come about? Because you seem to keep always creating new things, new stuff. You don't settle in a design and just try to milk it as much as you can, right?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate you saying that about my instruments. And it's music to my ears that you'd say that, the innovations that I'm adding are very practical and helpful and useful. It's not just gimmicky stuff that I'm after. And really, I think it comes as my background as a UX designer, that I'm looking at the entire experience of designing a bass. If you think about it, a bass is more than just the aesthetic beauty of the instrument itself, right? And it's also more than the tone you get from the instrument. This is something that a human interacts with, and you actually hold a bass and interact with it to produce the tone. And while a beautiful instrument might be kind of what first attracts you to the instrument, it's the tone, it's the playability that really carries you through to do that. I'm passionate about really creating an experience with a bass that encompasses all aspects of what a bass is. And that's where I look at things like, a bass is more than just the tone it produces. What if we give it some flexibility? Allow the bass player to swap out pickups or preamps so they can actually make it fit for their situation, because sometimes you're playing rock music or sometimes you're playing Latin or whatever, is that you want the instrument to match what you're doing, and you can give that flexibility built in that kind of allows for that. It's really interesting. And yesterday I had a girl who had a visual handicap, and she wasn't able to see the bass she was playing. I was really fascinated and intrigued, and I actually sat her down afterwards, and I asked her about, hey, tell me about, how do you play a bass? What's important to you in playing a bass, and understanding, what the controls are, where your hand is positioned on the neck, how you know where the strings are, what the controls do, and the switches and everything like that. So it's super fascinating talking to her and learning a little bit about how she approaches that. But I take that, and I take feedback from, everyday consumers, bass players, and I use that in the design, and hearing that, and that kind of goes in the back of my mind as I think about things like, and different solutions I can come up with to, that problems that need to be solved in terms of what makes a successful bass, if that makes any sense.
So, yeah, I saw her yesterday Kiara.
Yes, was it? She's amazing. She's an incredible player. So,
Yeah.
but how sad it would be, right, to have an instrument that her limitation would be the instrument, with her talent, and I think there's opportunity for instruments of the breadth of what they offer can expand to more than just, as we think about it's just for the sighted player or, whatever handicaps they might have. That's important, right, as we think about it. And that really broadens, the use and expansion for what this is.
Can you talk to me about the lines that you have, the types of basses that you have? What makes each one special?
Absolutely. When I break down my instruments, I have basically two lines of instruments. I have a jazz bass and I have a P bass. So the jazz bass is here. So let's walk over here. So here's a jazz bass. Has the traditional jazz bass body, as you can see, and really that's where it ends for me is in terms of the shape. But I provide a lot of different options, and then all right. And this is a P bass. Precision bass body. But really, the body shape is where it ends, because then it opens up with like different pickguard configurations, and different electronics configurations. Like this one is passive. The other ones are active. They have 6 knobs. I can do 5 knobs. I can do 4 knobs. I can place the different types of pickups. They could be a P bass pickup, a P51, a Soap Bar, Music Man. And I can literally take them and really customize them to what the bass player wants in their instrument, so that it fits their playing style. There's tone thereafter and everything like that. So it's really the entree point is the body shape, but beyond that, it changes, and they can do anything they want. And of course, I do 4-string, I do 5-string, I do now a 6-string, and I do a 7-string. So all different types of strings configurations, all sorts of different options as well, including inlays. You can have dots, you can have no dots, you can have my ovals, or you can have the block inlays. And something you do. One of the things that is consistent, or a few things. Hold on, let me grab another bass. All right, so on my basses, some of the features that you're going to find that are standard, and this is really hard to capture in camera, is I offer it's what I call a rolled edge fretboard, and it's really hard. I don't know if you can see it, but this is where the edge of the fretboard, I don't have a sharp edge. And that really comes from the hand. When you think about the hand wrapping around the neck, it's not a sharp corner. Your hand actually is rounded. So I made the fretboard to match that. And this really solves the problem of fatigue, because that sharp corner digging in your hand all the time when you're playing actually causes a lot of fatigue. But rounded, and that enables the player to play for hours and hours without the fatiguing. Another thing is a tilt headstock, which is kind of a weird thing for a jazz bass. But I love tilt headstocks because no string trees are required, and this allows for total tone transference over to not a nuts but a 0 fret. And a 0 fret I love it because it really, first of all, it offers the lowest possible action at the nut area, but also open notes sound like fretted notes. So there really is the player can now add the open note to their playing spectrum and know that it's going to match with their fretted note sound. Another thing I have on my jazz basses is this jack that sits right there. Now it's you can have a straight jack or a 90-degree jack. I like the 90-degree jack because what it does is when the player plays and the chord is in here, what it does, it keeps the cord away from the feet so you don't trip over it, and you can walk around without any problem and tripping over the cord, which happens. And if you do happen to step on it by chance, it's actually it'll just pull the bass. It won't actually pull the cord out of the instrument, which would be disastrous during a show, right? I mean, you don't want that. So I offer, all my basses have 24 frets. You can have 34 or 35 in a scale. And I'm also working on, where'd it go? Short scale. I have a 32 and a 30-inch scale in the works, which uses my string timbre system, which is a whole other thing. We can talk about that later. But and you see the jazz bass. I offer we have the pick guard. We have the this has the control plate. Also make one without the control plates. And whatever knob configuration you want, whatever preamp you want, whatever pickups you want, I can make that work. Also, other little things that I like to do is I have the control cavity is accessible through magnets, and the cover is, believe it or not, that is it's graphite in there because I wanted that lightness for the cover without having the mass of the wood, yet I wanted the stability so that cover is really sturdy. And so there's graphite in these braces here. And it's engineered so the potentiometers stick between the bracing right there. Works real well. And it snaps on really easy, like that. Another cool thing is, so I'm starting to do my batteries on magnets. And what's great about this is that when you do that, it actually makes it super easy to change batteries. You just drop them in, and boom, that's all you take it. So if you run out of batteries, just grab another pack that's already loaded, take the old one up, put the new one in, and boom, you're done. No more worrying about that. But should you run out of batteries for some reason, you can always just go to passive mode, and it'll play without batteries in the bass. It works great. Other little things like lumen lay side dots, that's a standard feature. Again, it's all about the user experience. You're in a dark venue, right? And you can't see the fretboard. I know it's happened to me as a bass player. And you're like, okay, that helps a little bit. Those are things that we can do. And other nuances like I recess the nut of the tuner. And the reason I do that is that it allows the string to get as low as possible on the tuning post. And what that does is that puts more downward pressure on that 0 fret so that it can work. And of course, I try to make the nuts, it might be hard to see on camera, but you can see that it's just it's rounded to the same profile as the fretboard, so your hand doesn't hit it and kind of get jerked around as you're doing that. So I always offer a matching head plate veneer on the top, on the headstock, I should say, and the body. And I'm trying to think what other options I have. These are things I can kind of take for granted. Satin finish on the back of the neck. In addition to rounding the edge of the fretboard, I round each individual fret. And I put a high polish on them. So again, as your hand glides across there, you're not hitting frets. Your hand is gliding across the wood itself, and it feels really good. So anyway, those are some of the features that I have on my basses. Take a lot of care to put into it, and they're all hand done in what I'm doing to ensure that they're not made in a factory in any sort of way. They're made by me, and I'm happy to make them just the best instrument I can possibly can.
Where are you based?
San Antonio, Texas. Technically, it's Bernie, Texas, which is just north of San Antonio, but for all intents and purposes, San Antonio. So here's the part that concerns me. I don't want to produce basses just to produce high volume, to try to sell more. I have trained folks to do it kind of my way of doing things. Everybody has their own way of doing things. It's not right, not wrong. There's just my way of doing things. So it takes it's a fair learning curve to get people to rethink how to approach something and train them. And I'm willing to do that. There's a guy in San Antonio. He's fantastic. His name is Leonardo Bosquez. Great guy, talented. Happy to have him on board. And he helps me with some of the assembly and soldering and what he's doing. And he's done a good job. I got to tell you, it's rough at first because he didn't know the way I did things. And he's one of those guys that took feedback well. And every time we produce something, I got better and better and better and better. And that's, if I were to expand, become bigger, I need to get people like that. People who have the talent, people who are willing to learn a new way of doing things, not that their old way is wrong, and to get them on board to just get on board to do my way. And that way, I think, is the best way to expand, because then we can ensure that the product that we're producing is consistent across the board, no matter who does it, and it kind of meets the standards that I want for an instrument. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
How many bases do you make a month?
A month? Let's talk about a year.
Okay.
I make between 35 and 40 bases a year. It's just a fair amount. And that's, if you think about it, that's one per week, roughly. It keeps me plenty busy. And I probably will increase that velocity a little bit as I get better and faster at things, and think about efficiencies that I can gain. But right now, that's what I do. The wait time on my instruments is probably about a year right now, just by virtue of the backlog I have, and the new orders I take and everything that's involved. So yeah, it's involved. It's a wait, but it's worth it. I like to think it is.
So if I were to order a bass from you, what's the process? How does it start?
Good question. All right, so it's actually super easy. The first part is me working with you on what you want on a bass. And what I want to do is nail down all those specs so that I understand exactly what the bass will be. They'll help me. From there, I can price it out and give a time estimate. Obviously, the more complex the options, the longer it takes, the more expensive it is, depending on all the time that would be involved in it. Once all that is nailed down, then we can, provide a down payment, which is $1,500, and that will get me going. That's enough money so I can buy all the parts and get the ball rolling on things. And then the next time you'll probably see me send photos, ask about pickup placement, different questions I'll have along the way, and then you'll get to finishing. And then it's gone for a little bit while it's in spray finishing. I have Pat Wilkins spray finish the bases. Fantastic job. He's best in the business. Yep. Exactly. He's great. And then they'll come back. I'll do the assembly and setup and get it all ready. And then it's ready. Then after that's all done and the base is complete, you make your final payment. And then I basically carefully put it in a case in a box and ship it off to you.
Sweet. So I noticed that several ones have the soul side.
Yes.
Then. So definitely, I followed you in the days and the months coming up to NAMM, right?
Yeah.
So Devin said he was going to make a few bases for NAMM, quite a few. He kept teasing us with the pictures and all that. So it looks like you're probably not going to bring anyone home.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't. We'll see what happens. I'll probably bring a few home. Here's my dirty secret. Is like the ones I don't sell. I'm gonna bring to next NAMM. Getting ready for this past NAMM just about killed me. I mean, it's like, oh gosh. I honestly was spending every waking hour getting ready for them. And also, I had to temporarily put some customers' orders on hold while I'm doing this. They're very understanding, and I appreciate them doing that. But that's kind of what I'm going to do next. I think the next one is in January, so that's 8 months away. And I kind of makes me quiver in fear already just thinking of that. So,
So you get home, and it's time to prepare for the next.
yep.
I'm very curious about the latest innovation that you've been working on. Can you show us that?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I have a lot of customers who will get a bass and they discover that the tone isn't exactly what they wanted. It's something that, and usually what often happens is it requires a pickup, a new pickup in their instrument. And to do that, it requires one of three things. Either they send the instrument back and incur a lot of costs for like shipping and everything like that, or they can go to a guitar tech and have them swap out the pickups for them after they buy them. And the third way is they can pull out their own soldering iron if they feel comfortable with it and swap them out themselves. Neither of those are really great options. It's it's time consuming, it's scary, and you don't know what's going to be involved. So I created a pickup swap system, and literally allows the player to take pickups and to swap out and put in new ones. So it's super easy, as you saw it. And the way it works is there's connectors in the base right there, or I should say in the pickup. And the pickup is actually attached to a holder that you see here. And so you can adjust the pickup height and everything like you normally would. This connector connects with the connector in the body, which has wires that go to here. And if you want, you can have the coil tapping ability as well, so you can switch coils and everything like that. So, the player can do that. And oops, I put this one in backwards. Consequently, one thing I did is I set up this, so if you accidentally put the bridge in the neck and the neck in the bridge, it won't work because the polarity of the pickups don't match. So it works seamlessly like that. But it doesn't stop with the pickups. I also did the same thing with preamps. So I made a quick change preamp. Basically, the preamp module, this is an Aguilar preamp. And it basically, this module fits into the body. It has 24 connectors here that go into compatible connectors in the body on this platform that leads to some wires that lead to the potentiometers and switches of the player's choice. They can have staff, they can have all single, they can have switches, they can have push-pull knobs, whatever they choose to have. But you can easily swap like an Aguilar preamp for, I have a Dark Blast right here. Or we can have a Nordstrand or a Bartolini. And I'm working to increase the vocabulary or the if you will, the library of different preamps that are offered in what we're doing. So one thing that I'd also like to do is not only make this something that offer in my bases, but something that people can buy as an aftermarket, so they can retrofit it in their personal instrument. And it probably include a kit where it has the potentiometers of your choice, or the configuration of your choice, and then the harness and the wires that go to it. Hopefully solderless connections, so you can just connect to yourself. And then you would have to find a place for this to go. You would route a hole into your body, wherever it might be, your choice. It could be on the front of the instrument if you want. Doesn't matter. But then, and then you can buy the preamps separately. So you can swap out whatever preamp that you would want to put it in.
So this looks like a new line,
What?
new line of business for you, right?
Yeah,
New line of business.
new line of business. Exactly. Yeah, it could be very well a new line of business that I can offer.
Definitely electronics, so definitely.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different innovations. Yeah, so this is what I'm offering. And consequently, I'm gaining international patents on this thing too, because I originally was just going to get one for the United States, but I'm finding this is a lot of people have expressed interest internationally. So this is something that's happening as well. So
I've seen you working with Dark Glass, Aguilar, Marlini,
Yep.
Nordstrand.
Yep. Trickfish,
Already,
Talking Thing. What's that?
John East. Are you talking to him already?
I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see if it's possible. I mean, some preamps are too big. I'm thinking the J Retro might be able to fit in there. I'm not sure. So, and some of it involves like unsoldering some of those circuit boards from the potentiometers and putting it separately, which is all very doable. And I have fairly now, after 30 years of doing this, well versed in this of these electronics, but it's a fair amount of work. But also figuring out like this was CNC'd on my machine, but if I'm going to make this available in higher quantities, I got to find a way to produce these maybe with injection molding or something like that. So that's something that I'm going to be looking into as well, which I'm pretty excited about actually.
Any last words? Any things you'd like to mention that I forgot to ask?
No, I just say, I'm just so passionate about this. Love doing it. Love working with all the players. in doing this. It's probably the other part of what I love about this business. We're bringing everything together is the human aspect. And all the relationships that you form in doing that. It just makes it so much fun and rewarding. So anyway, thank you so much.